Welcome to the Cobb County Dual Enrollment Summit General Presentation. This is the first of 3 presentations that I am going to ask for my Pope Dual Enrollment families to watch. This is going to be the general information, and then the next 2 presentations are the Pope specific information. So let's start with this. So first we're going to talk about what dual enrollment is, who's eligible, how to get started. We're going to talk about how the courses transfer between one school to the other, and also some paperwork that is going to need to be completed. So what is dual enrollment? Dual enrollment is a program that the state of Georgia is funding for students to take college classes that are going to count for both high school and college credit. You can take dual enrollment classes as a full-time or part-time student. We'll talk more about that in the Pope specific sessions. And the bulk of the information that you can find out about dual enrollment is found on the website gafutures.org. So how much does it cost? It's actually free to eligible high school students. It includes the mandatory fees and the books that the students would take in a class. And it also pays for the tuition. Some students might have to pay some non-mandatory fees, and every once in a while they might have to purchase some supplies, specifically things that they would keep as their personal property, or consumables, things that they would not be returning back to the university. So the books that we're talking about are probably going to be loaned out to the students, and then they are required to submit them back when the course is finished. It doesn't count against their HOPE cap. It doesn't eat into HOPE at all. These are 2 separate programs. And funding is available for 30 hours. So 30 hours is roughly 1 year's worth of college courses. We're going to break down hours a little bit more in the Pope specific session and actually what that looks like. There are some additional funding options for students. There are 2 different dual enrollment programs. The majority of our students are going to participate in option A, which is what we're going to be talking about the most of today. But there's also something called option B that will allow students to dip into some HOPE grant money, which is the technical funding source if students are pursuing a technical certificate or a diploma at a technical college. So let's talk about the option B option here just briefly. We don't have a lot of students who do this option, but it's available for the right student. So it's an alternate way for students to graduate from high school. Basically, the requirements are that they complete 2 English classes, 2 maths, 2 sciences, 2 social studies, health and personal fitness, and any of the required EOC courses, EOC tests that go along with those classes. We would talk about those specific classes during our advisement session. And then that's all they are required to do as far as the high school credits. And then the other part of their high school diploma, they have to earn a technical diploma, 2 related technical certificates that lead to state licensure, and they have specified which ones are eligible, and that list can change. And then there are some associate's degrees. Associate's degrees are a little tricky because the majority of associate's degrees are not related to technical fields, so that would be something we would need to talk to the technical college and find out exactly how that might work and how we would position the classes so that that could work for the student. So can anyone apply to dual enrollment? We're back to the general dual enrollment information here. So can anyone apply, and when does it start? So it's recommended for 11th and 12th graders. They can participate fully in the program. Some 10th graders can do dual enrollment. There was a bill that was passed just this past spring, HB 444, and it eliminated 9th graders. In the past, 9th graders could participate, but the funding has been running dry. And so they had to limit the program to 10th, 11th, and 12th. And they also reduced the funding. It used to be unlimited funding for limited hours. They reduced it down to 30 hours. But there are some situations where 10th graders can participate. They can, colleges set their own grade and age requirements. So even if 10th graders are eligible through the dual enrollment program, the colleges still have the ability to regulate that themselves. So just briefly, it's not on the slide, but 10th graders can all take career technical classes at Chattahoochee Tech. And then if a student has earned a 1200 on the SAT or a 26 on the ACT, they could participate just like an 11th or 12th grader. The problem with 10th graders participating that early is that they may run out of hours. They may run out of funding, and they may want to participate more and more and more the older they get, but those hours will disappear quickly. So we generally would encourage 11th and 12th graders to be the ones to do dual enrollment, unless they're wanting to do option B. That's a whole different conversation. And again, that's for a very specific type of student that might have a career pathway already in mind. Students can take classes during fall, spring, and summer semester. At some colleges, again, the colleges can determine if they can do summer or not, but that's information you can easily find at the colleges. Might be difficult to start mid-year if on a traditional high school schedule. So Pope is a traditional high school schedule. So we do not allow students to start in the spring. You have to start either in the summer or in the fall, because in order to start in the spring, you would have to make a schedule change. And we schedule our classes for the year. We hire teachers for the year. And we build our master schedule with the expectation that students stay in their classes for the whole year. Now, students in some instances have taken classes on top of their full Pope schedule, and that would be a conversation to just have with us, and we'd speak to administration. But generally, if you're going to start dual enrollment, we would say you need to start in summer or fall. There's no residency or citizenship requirement for dual enrollment other than being in Georgia. Admissions requirements and deadlines are going to vary by the college. And then it's important to research and apply early. I'm going to talk a lot about that in the Pope session. You will hear a lot about our early deadlines that we have. So we want to make sure students get in and get into their classes and are able to register for their classes so that they can take what they want to take at the location that they want and at the times that they want. So now is the time to start researching all of this. So what does it take to be a successful dual enrollment student? So maturity level is huge. The content in the classes that's discussed can be very mature. Students are going to be in classes with college age students and adults. So that is something that your student and students who are listening to this, you guys need to be ready for this mature conversation and be okay with that. And the professors are going to expect that the students be mature and be able to handle mature conversations and topics. The initiative to get tasks completed without prompting. The professors are not going to be talking to the students or the parents. They're not going to be calling home to say, hey, your kid hasn't turned in their stuff. That's not going to happen. If the student doesn't complete the work and turn in the work, they just get a 0. Nobody's going to be prompting them, hey, you got to get it done. Okay, so students need to be self-starters, self-motivated. The academic rigor and format of college classes can be very different than high school. In some instances, it's going to be easier than some of their Pope classes, and in some instances, they're going to be harder depending on the type of class that the student takes. But these are college level classes, and so students need to be ready for that. It's just something to think about. It's important that students choose classes with their certain major or a college in mind. Maybe they have specific schools they're looking at. You need to be researching this. You need to find out from the college that the student ultimately wants to go to. Guys, you need to be researching this. Sometimes classes don't always transfer. Sometimes colleges won't accept dual enrollment credits. Sometimes they do. In the state of Georgia, the public schools, they kind of have some partnerships and they'll accept the majority of classes. We'll discuss that a little bit later. But don't go into this assuming, oh, well, I'm taking Psychology 1101. It's automatically going to go wherever I want it to go. That's not always the case. So make sure you keep that in mind. It is important for students to check their email often and respond. Read the emails that come to them. It has a lot of really good instructions, and it's just really important for them to make sure they're doing this. If that's not something that you're in the habit of doing, if parents, if you guys are the ones who take care of all the things and you are the ones who are initiating and emailing the counselors about all these different steps and sending us the documents, then I would probably want you guys to really think about whether this is the right program for you. Students, if you're expecting your parents to do all these steps for you, you need to really give a good, strong look at this and say, is this really the program for me? Because dual enrollment expects the students to be the ones to do all these things. Okay, so some things to think about. It might be good for students who are scared about their ability to succeed in college. It might be a good way to dip your toe in the water and just get a taste for what a college class might look like a class that you know is going to be one of your stronger subjects, and just start getting the feel of what college might feel like. This is a good opportunity to do that. Things to consider, again, I mentioned this before, professors are not going to communicate with parents. FERPA law prohibits them from doing that. They usually don't even know a student in their class is a dual enrollment student. So don't expect that they are going to respond if you send them an email, parents. They will either ignore it or they'll respond with something very short. I'm sorry, I'm not able to communicate with you. Please have your student reach out to me. The college grades aren't going to be in Parent View or CTLS Parent. They're going to be strictly with the professors there at the college. And it's going to be up to the student to be keeping up with that. Students have to provide their own transportation. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in the Pope session. At Pope, obviously, we have a small parking lot, and parking can be an issue. Students are not required to take EOCs for most courses, except for biology and American Lit, if you're taking them for the first time. Most American Lit students are going to be taking that for the first time, but every once in a while we'll have a biology student who took things a little bit out of order. But those two specific EOCs would be required if students take those at the college for the very first time. And students must be off campus during their scheduled dual enrollment classes, including any online classes. They're not allowed to be on the Pope campus using our computers here in the media center, in the cafeteria, hanging out in a teacher's classroom. That's not allowed. They have to be off campus. They're expected to only be on campus at Pope if they have a scheduled class during that time. The breaks are going to be different than Cobb County. And so as you have holidays coming up, our fall break, our February break, spring break, those are going to be different. They may not have those same breaks at the college. So students, keep that in mind. If you guys have big trips planned, this might be a conflict. You might not be able to participate, or if you miss class at the college, they may not allow makeups for those assignments, or if it's a test, they have some strict attendance policies usually, so you have to be aware of those. You're probably going to miss out on high school communications and events. Now, you're still going to be a Pope High School student. You're still going to be able to participate in the activities, but if there are conflicts there, it might prevent your ability to do so. It's really important to know our bell schedule, our many different types of bell schedules. Pope, we change bell schedules all the time. We have our normal bell schedule. You know, when we're face-to-face, Monday, Friday are the same. Tuesday, Thursday are AO schedule. We have the X block on Wednesday. And then sometimes Cobb County throws in an early release. Sometimes we switch X block to Friday. There's pep rally schedules. We've got this virtual schedule right now. It just changed again. So there's a lot of issues with the bell schedule. This really comes into play with our part-time kids who do part at the college and part at the high school. So it's important to make sure that you're looking at all of that when you're building your schedule, and realize you've got to factor in parking and travel time and all of that. So it's important to find balance between your classes and extracurricular activities, because it's really easy to kind of either get overloaded or forget that you have rehearsals and have things scheduled. So make sure that you're looking at that as well. And then also considering your future goals. Is AP better than dual enrollment? That's a great question, and a lot of people want to know the answer to that, and the answer is it depends. It depends on the college. It depends on what your goals for you know, future college admissions are, and recognizing that some colleges are going to view AP as a more rigorous option than dual enrollment. Other schools, it's not going to make a big difference. Other schools, it's going to be irrelevant to them. So you just need to research that. That's up to the student and the family to research that for themselves. So how do you apply? So you're going to apply on the college website. They're going to have a dual enrollment application. This is, there are several steps. There's the application. They're also going to need to provide test scores if required. They're going to need to provide a transcript, high school transcript, and any other forms that the college may require. So that's something for the student to do on their side. Different schools are going to have different procedures. Pope, we have a very specific procedure on how to request the transcript. We'll talk about that in a little bit. The test scores, like I mentioned, AccuPlacer, SAT, ACT, depending on the school. With COVID going on right now, there are some schools that are being flexible with the SAT or ACT requirement. So you just need to check with the college, go on their college website, ask them those questions. So pay very close attention to the deadlines and the requirements. Again, Pope, we are going to have different deadlines than the college deadlines. I want to say that up front, and I'll talk more about that in the next presentation, but deadlines are super important, and we want to make sure that students are meeting the Pope deadlines so that they get into their classes. So when do you meet with a counselor? So again, I'll go into more detail about this in a little bit, but you're going to follow the local school protocol. We're going to review courses that you need for graduation. This is one of the forms that we're going to fill out together, the advisement plan, where we're going to list out the courses that the student needs to graduate, and then the classes that the student's planning to take for that next semester, where they're going to start dual enrollment, both the high school classes and the dual enrollment classes. It's required each semester. We have to do this each semester. Dual enrollment classes are scheduled semester by semester. So we typically would not do one of these for both fall and spring at the same time. We would usually do fall sometime in February or March for the following fall. And then September is about the time that we start meeting with students to talk about their spring classes. And then we do have electronic forms. This one is a fillable PDF, but there are some paper forms that if we need to do those, we've got those available. There are some things that students will submit to the college. This particular form may or may not be required by the college, but sometimes the college has some additional paperwork. There is a form on GA Futures state participation agreement. It's also called the dual enrollment funding application. It is something the student will have to fill out on GA Futures that is the vehicle by which we submit a funding request for students. And so that's also required. And then also there is a Cobb County local school agreement, dual enrollment school agreement. Basically, this is rules and regulations. Families and the students will sign off on each of the points with their initials, and then sign at the bottom to say that they understand all the rules and what goes on into dual enrollment. So more about the funding application on that GA Futures website. So this is just a screenshot of what it looks like on a kind of a zeroed in on the main page. So students are going to create an account on this website. They're going to click on the link to do the application. They're going to do their portion. They're going to put in their parent's email address, and then when they hit submit, the parents will get an email, and the parents will click on the link in the email and they will sign their portion. So we definitely want the students to initiate this process. They're going to do that form first, then the parents will read and sign it. This is done once a year. And there's also a video on GA Futures. It's a very detailed video that you can watch that walks you through this particular application. So let's talk about transferring classes from the college to the high school. So what happens is all the dual enrollment classes that are available to students have a high school number that we give it a high school name. It goes onto the student schedule, and then eventually when they get a grade, it will go on to the high school transcript. So on GA Futures, you can find the dual enrollment directory. This is where you can see every course that's available for students to take through dual enrollment for a particular college. So dual enrollment is funding core classes and career tech classes. Those are the two types of classes that are funded. So fine arts aren't funded, PE classes aren't funded. It's just core and CTAE. Not all the courses required for high school graduation are available through dual enrollment. And on the other side, not all college courses are available through dual enrollment. So it's important to look at the directory to see what is available. So here's an example of some classes that are pulled up in the dual enrollment directory. So for example, a lot of our students take English 1101. We're going to call it advanced composition. This particular class can count as the 4th English for students for their high school graduation. Here's an example of math right below. So math 1101 is a class called math modeling, and math 1111 is college algebra. Either of those could be the 4th math as well. So a lot of times colleges will help advise students on what level of math they should take. A lot of times it's based on their test scores or placement testing to figure out what their entry level is going to be. And sometimes it's a little more obvious based on what they've taken at the high school. So this will be something that we will talk about with you during our advisement session. So let's talk about classes transferring to other colleges. In the state of Georgia, as I said before, there's a little bit more of a partnership, and there's a website. It's actually built into the GA Futures website. If you go to GA Futures, you'll see a link for GA Tracks. And this is a way for you to see how courses will transfer. Another way to see how classes transfer is to go, let's say a student is doing dual enrollment at Kennesaw State, but they want to transfer to Georgia State. Well, what they would need to do is go to the Georgia State website and look at their transfer information page to see how those classes for Kennesaw will transfer to Georgia State and what they'll be called. So GA Tracks is a place where you can do it all in one place. It can be a little buggy, I'll be honest, unless they've updated it recently. I haven't been on there this year since the school year has started back. But I do know that if you go directly to the high school or the college website, it's going to be definitely a lot more reliable. But this is a good place to start. And you'll be able to see how the classes will transfer within the University System of Georgia. So those are the public four-year colleges in Georgia. If you're looking at private schools and out-of-state schools, you're going to need to go directly to those websites, bar none, period. Georgia GA Tracks is only for the public schools in Georgia. So you can only find that information there. And so again, GA Futures is where GA Tracks lives. So can you withdraw from classes? So you can withdraw from classes, but the problem is that if you withdraw from a class after the first 10 days of the high school term, you're going to earn a grade of a 10 on the transcript for that class. So do not withdraw from classes after the first 10 days of school. You don't want that to happen. At the college, they handle withdrawals very differently. College students can withdraw no problem, and it's usually not as big of a deal, but in high school, we just don't withdraw from classes. That's not something that happens. So we'll talk more about that in the Pope session. But we have to record the grades onto the transcript. If they are being funded through dual enrollment, they're required to be recorded on the permanent record. Students have to maintain full-time status, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. And then self-pay classes are not added to the schedule. So let's say a student gets to their 30 hours and they want to keep taking classes, and they're thinking, well, I'll just pay for them. Well, there's policy in Cobb County that does not allow us to add those classes to the schedule or to the transcript. So these are going to be classes the student will just be taking on their own for enrichment, and it's going to need to be outside the normal school day. They still will need to be taking classes to maintain their full-time status, either through Pope. Well, if they run out of money, then they're not allowed to use them through dual enrollment. So they'll have to revert back to Pope classes or Cobb virtual classes, that kind of thing. So if they decide to withdraw, there's only 2 opportunities to withdraw before you cease to become a dual enrollment student. Once you've withdrawn from 2 classes, you're no longer eligible to continue participating in dual enrollment. So how do they come to the high school transcript? So at the end of each semester, the colleges will send the high school a copy of the transcript. They always post their grades as letter grades. So when we get those grades, we're going to see A, B, C, or D. And we use this particular chart here to translate the grades to a numeric grade. Our county requires us to put numeric grades on the transcript. So an A will be a 95, a B is an 85, a C is a 76, and a D is a 72. Basically, they took the midpoint of each of those as close as they could and rounded up for those that are a little bit odd. And that's how they determined how the grades will post. If a student earns an F, they will get a 69. If they withdraw, they get a 10, as I mentioned. So a lot of people want to know about quality points. CCSD policy only awards quality points to dual enrollment classes if the student has already taken the highest level available to them at their high school prior to taking that dual enrollment course. And then the dual enrollment course needs to be a level above the highest level available to them. So let's say a student takes AP biology and then they take a higher level biology at the college, we would award quality points to that course. If a student has not taken that particular AP or class that will correspond to the highest level of what we offer here at Pope, we will not be awarding quality points. That's a CCSD policy. But Hope is different. Hope is a different GPA calculation. Hope awards a 0.5 quality point for DE, degree level courses. So a core class that a student takes through DE, they're going to give that extra half quality point. It's the same rule that they give for AP. Okay, so AP classes get that extra half quality point. Dual enrollment classes get the extra half quality point up to a 4.0. So this is a weird quirk of Hope. They don't let the GPA go above a 4.0. So if a student has an A in a dual enrollment or AP class, they still only get a 4.0. If they get a B, they're going to get a 3.5. That's where the extra half comes into play. So that's how that will work. Again, self-pay courses are not added to the transcript. Both passing and failing grades will be added to the transcript. These grades will factor into both your Cobb County GPA and your Hope GPA. So that grade of a 10, if it's in a core class, it's going to be included in that Hope GPA calculation. So that's something we really want to avoid. And then college courses, which go to the high school transcript, will also meet NCAA requirements. So just a review of the steps. So it's important to research college requirements, take and send SAT, ACT, or Accuplacer if it's required. Students are going to apply to the college and send their official transcript. They're going to complete the funding application on GA Futures. They will meet with their counselor to complete their advisement session. Once they get accepted into the college, they will need to attend an orientation or advising session. And then the students will register for their courses and they will need to send that schedule to their counselor. And again, we're going to go into the specific protocol for Pope in just a few minutes. So deadlines, resources, questions. All colleges have their own deadlines. You have to think about the SAT or ACT and take those so that they correspond to the deadline. We recommend at Pope that you do fall testing. If you are going to take the SAT or ACT, take the test in the fall. If you start trying to take them in January, February, March, you're probably going to miss some deadlines. So try to take them in the spring or in the fall, because our deadlines are in the spring. So here's something that I do want to point out. Cobb County has deadlines listed. So Cobb County has set their own deadlines for dual enrollment. Fall is May 1st, spring is November 1st, summer is May 1st. But at Pope, I want you to ignore those dates, and I want March 1st to be the date that you have in your mind. We're going to talk more about that in the Pope session, but March 1st is the Pope dual enrollment deadline, again, because we want our students to get the best courses possible. And the later you wait, the harder it is to get into the classes that you want. We do that for our students, okay? GA Futures is the website where you can learn all about dual enrollment. There is a Cobb County dual enrollment webpage as well right there that you can access. And I will have that linked on our Pope dual enrollment page as well. So that is the conclusion of this presentation with all the general information. And please now watch the next presentation, part 2 of the dual enrollment, to learn about how Pope specifically handles these topics. Thank you.